If I told you right now you had to quadruple your sales in the next 30 days, could you do that? I could. I could do it for my clients. A lot of my students could. Could you do that? If not, then you don't have a sales funnel. You don't have a system that allows you to fly and to scale. And so that's what this point is all about. Welcome to Write This Down with Maddie Birdcage. As a global marketing advisory founder, a business educator, and psychology-informed strategist with a full family life and an addiction to luxury travel, I'm here to let you into the inner workings of my businesses, my family life, and my mind to show you how to live the good life. Each episode, I promise to give you practical takeaways you can take action on right away to get you closer to being that calm, growth-focused CEO in control of your business, your marketing, and your life. So make sure you write this down. Welcome back to Write This Down. I'm really excited to be talking about this next stage, back into the guts of what we do in terms of marketing, to really understand what the shifts have been, because there have been so many, not just in economic times. When everything starts to feel chaotic, when things don't work the way they used to, I'm a big believer in going back to basics. If that's in your personal life and you feel as though you're out of touch with where you're going with your direction, I always like to say, go back and remember who you used to be as a kid and what you loved to do back then, and spend some time doing that, because that always creates a lot of joy and a lot of space for me. The other thing that I really like to go back to is actual business foundations. And I want to talk to you guys today about the flight path method that has been another evolution of our framework for what business is today. I've also been speaking to a lot of business owners who have either been in business for decades, but also business owners who are brand new. What did I need when I first launched my business, when I was first getting really good at digital marketing? What are the foundations that were needed so that I could then take my business to where it is in a place now? I'm in my 11th year of business. There is so much additional value that I know that I can deliver to our clients, to our students, that isn't just directly marketing. And from going back into that place, I've completely expanded my view and my beliefs and my frameworks and our offering around what people actually need from us. The 9 things that every business needs in order to fly, in order to scale. And hence why we have reimagined our framework, our systems into the flight path method, because that's exactly what it is. It is a set path that you must travel on in order to fly so that you can scale. I've worked with clients over the last few years that have not had these foundations in place, and their business grew quite quickly due to a viral TikTok. Then they often come to me when things aren't performing like they used to. Redo their style guide, redo their website, redo their ads, redo their analytics, redo absolutely everything, and actually redo their mindset around their business as well. And that is really challenging, because clients often feel like they're going backwards when they're doing this stuff. If they would have just done this in the first place, we wouldn't have to have taken this pause when they could have been tripling their figures by this point. The 9 steps that you must do in order to have a very strong business that doesn't feel the economic pinch when everyone else around them does, that doesn't burn them out, that doesn't fall apart the minute an algorithm shifts. And whether you are a new business, so you're just about to go on this journey, whether you are a refocusing business like a lot of our clients are, where they've been in business for a few years, things were working really well, but now things aren't so much, or they're launching a new offer, or whether you're a creator business, which we've been working with a number of creators. They're reaching millions of people every single day, and yet they're not getting paid what they should be for the reach that they have. So whether you are new, refocusing, or a creator, this episode is for you to take you step by step through everything that you need to have covered in order. And by the end of this episode, you will know exactly what is missing and what you need to go back and fix. Flight path method is not a content system. It's not a funnel system. It is a business system. It's actually the operating system we've been using for every client in Birdcage for the last 7 years. Our audience profiling and our schemas and our psychological tools that we use, even when we were sharing it previously, it still did feel a little bit complex for a lot of people. And so what we've really tried to do is tighten all of those things up. We've also then expanded on other areas like your digital infrastructure. So that isn't something that's typically considered marketing, but it does fall under the business foundations. So we've tightened some areas up, we've expanded others, and we've made it very step-by-step and very clear. When I've gone against my own rules, I've regretted it. And I've had to then go back and have that hard conversation and say, hey, I know that we've been running ads, but actually when I went deeper, your website isn't what it needs to be. And so we need to go back and do that. And that's a hard convo. And I have lost clients because of that, because they don't want to invest. They don't want to invest the time or the money to go back and fix the things. But I know that without doing them, that's what's hindering us. And this is very similar to our full library program. And I'll talk about the evolution of the full library and how it's evolved into Flight School, which we've just launched this week, which I'm very excited about. But the one non-negotiable rule in Flight School, which we didn't have in the full library, was that you cannot skip ahead. You cannot do any next step unless you've done the step before, because it all builds on itself. And this is especially important if you're using AI tools, which I'm a huge believer in using AI tools the right way. And I will tell you more about Flight School at the end, but for now, I just want you to listen to the framework and just understand where you're at, where things are missing, and where we need to tighten things and go back and fix. So the flight path method has 9 steps. The first 3 steps is about the know. You must know these particular things about yourself and your business before you can go to the next 3 steps, which is the build phase, where you have your digital infrastructure, your website. Finally, there is the launch phase. And I'm not saying that we're going back to launch phase when we're doing it. We are launching the systems that will then scale your business. So that is all about your lead magnets, your sales funnels, and introducing ads. So let's break this down piece by piece. Phase 1, no. The first step in phase 1 is found a purpose and direction. And this is something I've been banging on about for years, probably not as much as I should have been, because it was always this mindset piece. I've always made it an optional extra because I didn't want people to think that I was woo-woo or that I was like talking about manifestation and energy and all of these things. And so it was very much like, oh, you can do it if you want to, but like you can also just skip it if you want. That is a non-negotiable that I have anymore. I don't care if you think I'm a crazy hippie lady, because maybe in some points I am. I have some wild ideas, but in other points, it's all neuroscience. It's all psychologically based as well. And one thing that I've been really excited about my own personal development journey is the fact that any sort of like intuitive, spiritual woo-woo stuff that I feel like, oh, I think that's the way to do it. When I've then done my research and I apply it to the diploma in positive psychology that I studied, there is actually a psychological backing to a lot of these spiritual beliefs. So if you're religious, I'm not challenging your religious beliefs. If you're spiritual, I'm not challenging that. If you're none of those things, I'm also not challenging that. What I want you to look at is the science behind the way that our brains work. That is to, number 1, get your mindset on the right track, because entrepreneurship, it is a bitch. And if your mindset isn't right, nothing else can work. That is number 1. But number 2, in 2026, your founder identity, that is the strategy. That is what sets you apart. Not your products, not your features, not your offers, not how cheap you are, not how fast you are, not how you're Australian made, not how you're sustainable. No one actually cares about that shit. I'm sorry, they don't. What they care about is connecting with another human being who makes them feel the way they want to feel, who introduces ideas to them that they may never have thought of before, who has an opinion or a stance on something, who's not afraid to be authentically themselves. And I want you to think about someone that you know that you just feel like is so magnetic and you're like, I can't even explain what it is about them. I guarantee you it's because they're in their authenticity. And you know I don't love the word authenticity, but they know who they are, and they're not afraid to show it. They're not afraid to say the things that other people may not like, because they know that when they say what's true to them, they will magnetically attract the people that they want. And with AI coming through so much, God, I hate AI content so much. People, just a side note, people that think that they're like, I made an AI version of myself and no one can tell. Everyone can tell, and everyone hates it. And even if you're one of these people, even if you're like my parents' age and you can't tell, you can still tell. That's the uncanny valley theory, by the way. But with the founder stage, if you don't know who you are and you don't know what you're building, you're going to build something that either doesn't work or that you hate. And I've probably done both of those things. It also means that any decision that you then need to make in your business, in your marketing, in your brand, in your life, everything downstream for that becomes so much easier. You now have a life system, a value system, you have a clear direction of who you are. And what I'm talking about here are your life values. And in flight school, we take you step by step through trying to figure out what those life values are. This has been part of my vision boarding process that I've been doing for years, and it's always the first step, because once you figure out what your values are, which we all have our values, we probably just, most of us just haven't articulated or sat down to really figure out what they are yet. Once you have them, that's how you then filter your goals. We have these goals that we've inherited from our parents, from society, or from what we just think, oh, I should have that $1 million a month goal. I used to have this goal where I wanted 100 people working for me, right? Because I thought that if I had 100 people working in my business, that means I'm super successful. But one of my goals is actually peace. And do we think a lot of peace comes from having 100 employees? I'm going to tell you, from having 14 employees once upon a time, it certainly does not. And so for me, it's all about simplification and getting and achieving peace through having a smaller team, but higher outputs and doing better work, more quality work. After we have our goals, we then need to make sure they happen for us. We help you figure out your action steps that you need to take. So these are one-off action steps, but also rituals and routines. And as I said, I'm not an overly consistent person when it comes to my schedule. I like to have freedom. That is another one of my values, sovereignty actually. But having rituals and routines is very good for alleviating the mental load, especially if you're a parent, or if you're caring for someone else, or if you have huge responsibilities, or if you've got a full-time job and a side hustle. When you've got a lot going on, your routines and your rituals are what streamlines things. And it's why Steve Jobs wore the same thing every single day. Now, the way that flight school works is that you actually answer all of these questions and you do all of these steps within the new portal. And then at the end of each week, you actually submit your responses to us for us to review. Now, I don't want to be talking about flight school the whole time in this, but I do want to say that it's that feedback loop that I really see as the value, and it's why we switched from our full library program on the platform that it used to be, and we've reinvented it into flight school, where you get that feedback, we actually keep you on track, and we actually keep you accountable. Now, step 2 in phase 1, in the know phase, is your audience psychology and the audience lens. Now, the audience lens, this is our new name for our audience schemas. When we first launched this psychological tool that we used, we called them audience schemas because they were based on psychological schemas. But I think a more accurate way of describing them is actually a lens, because that's exactly what it is. It is the lens through which your audience sees the world. And they are still the same 5 schemas / lenses that you need to figure out which one of them your audience has. So yes, we do all the demographic profiling, you know, who they are, how old they are, where they live, male, female, do they have kids, whatever those demographics are. We still need to understand their psychographics, so like what do they value, all of that kind of stuff. But the audience lens is really the piece that ties it all together. And that is our proprietary tool that we have been using for years and years and years. And the feedback I always get from people that have worked through when it was the schemas, but now the lens work, is that it was the most enlightening part of any marketing work they have ever done. And so the whole point of this is that you are not building for everyone. You can't build your business for everyone, right? But if you're like me, it's your audience isn't quite as clear as, oh, it's this specific person right here. You typically have a range of people who, if you were to line them up, they may all look completely different. But there is one shared commonality, and that is their lens, and that is how they see the world. And so as long as you are speaking to one lens, it doesn't matter whether your audience is old, young, rich, not rich, if they live in Australia, if they live overseas, if they've got a higher education, if they are still in high school. It doesn't matter what their demographics look like, as long as they share the same lens. And let me give you a big hint, your audience's lens is probably matching your lens. So what I would love for you to do right now, think about your customer, think about your audience, and write down the one sentence that would stop them from buying from you. Now, if you can't write that one sentence down, you probably don't know your audience well enough, and we need to go back and do that work. The problem that every single business has, they don't know that one domino belief that needs to get knocked over before everything else flows. And that's what we figure out when we understand your audience lens, because we're not just dealing with the objections of, oh, it's too expensive, or, oh, it's not the right time, because that's never really what it is. It's actually something else that comes back to something deep in their subconscious: security and safety, empowerment and achievement, self-acceptance and growth, safety and well-being, or community and connection. It's got to do with one of those 5 aspects. Now we move on to step 3 within the know phase. You know who you are, you know what your values are, you know what your goals are, you know what you need to do every day in order to achieve those things. You know who your audience is, you know what the domino belief is, what their deep subconscious belief is that you need to address in your marketing before you even introduce them to buy from you. Now we need to know what your brand is. How does your brand express itself? Back when I was first starting my career in Sydney, I did something called ad school. And in ad school, we learnt about the brand pyramid. And this was a very basic way of figuring out like your features, your benefits, your purpose, all of those things. And I mean, it was great. But we have completely reinvented how the brand pyramid now works to make it not such a guessing game. And this is where our AI prompts then come into play. Use your founder direction, use your audience lenses to then create a brand pyramid which has the 6 layers in it. So we start at the base of the brand pyramid where we talk about your features. This is the most functional part of your business. This is whether it's Australian made, if it's good quality, if whatever, free delivery, whatever the features are, the tangible features, we start there. Now, what we've done with our brand pyramid, we've actually integrated our ladder of transformation into it. So if you're a full library student or you've worked with us previously, you'll know that we believe that every brand must solve 3 problems for its customers. A functional one, so what it is you actually do, an emotional one, how you make them feel, and an identity level one, who it is that your audience becomes when they buy from you. So we've integrated this into the brand pyramid, and it also talks about your brand purpose as a whole. Now there's a whole process that goes into doing this where there's step-by-step questions where we basically just need you to brain dump onto paper, and then you can use the AI prompts to shape this for you. As I said, we are building on the previous 2 steps. You're not just going to get generic AI slop that comes out. It's going to be very, very good. In this part, we also need to establish your anti-audience. Now, your anti-audience isn't a bad audience. They're not bad people. They're just the people that you are directly in disagreement with. And this may challenge a lot of you. You might think like, oh, I don't want anyone to, I want everyone to have their own beliefs. Yes, that's fine. Now, I want to use an example here. I have a partnership with a pregnancy and baby app. It's called MamaLink, by the way, and we have just relaunched their funnel. And if you are pregnant or if you're a new mother, you need to get on this app because Courtney is fucking amazing. But the thing with Courtney is her beliefs are very much about not actually having a specific dogma. So she's not like a hardcore cried out sleep consultant. She's not a hardcore, you must breastfeed lactation consultant. She's not hardcore about any of that. What she really believes in is the fact that a mother and a baby need to have a method that works for them. Whatever works for you as a mother and your baby, that is the right choice. So when I was talking to her about the anti-audience, when we first started working on her strategy, she very much was resistant to that and was like, but I want people to feel like they have the ability to choose what their parenting style is. And so there's no people that I'm really against. And I said, well, hold on a minute. Yes, you are. Your anti-audience is the lactation consultants, the sleep consultants, the baby nurses, the parenting advice that doesn't believe that mothers should have a freedom of choice, that believes that there is only one way to do things. So you are in direct opposition to those people. And that's where the anti-audience comes into play. It is your ability to draw a line in the sand. It doesn't have to be aggressive, where you are simply asking your audience through your content, through your marketing, through your business to choose a side. Are you on Courtney's side where mothers need the permission to be informed and to choose the right methods for how they parent? Or do you sit on the other side that believes that there really is only these specific ways that you can get results, that you can actually achieve a harmonious life with your children? Where do you sit? And that is what her content then needs to do. It needs to activate a question within her audience. Do you choose what I believe or do you choose what someone else believes? And that is the point of the anti-audience. Okay, so I've gone pretty deep into that first no phase. It is the most important. After that, it's actually pretty clear sailing because we've done all the hard parts. We've done all the thinking part. We've gotten to know exactly where it is we're going, what we're building. Now we need to build it. So the first step within the build phase is your digital business setup. And this is, as I said, when I was working with a brand new business owner, this is where I saw there was huge gaps. People don't know about domains. People don't know about emails. They don't know what their Instagram handle should be. All those really simple questions. And this is actually things that I addressed in my very first course that I filmed but never launched way back in the day. But we take you step by step on getting a domain name, and not through GoDaddy that's just gonna up the price on you every year, on setting your branded email up, on having a financial system so you can track your expenses, track your subscriptions, all of that, on using the right tech that you actually need, on making sure your subscription costs don't sneak up on you like they always seem to for me. But I have a system that I could audit it very quickly to make sure my overheads stay low. It's all of those little bits and pieces which can really interrupt your marketing if you don't have them down. And oh, I don't know where my email is hosted. I don't know where my domain is. I don't even know what a domain is. I don't know what any of these things. This is the stuff we get sorted right here and now so that you have all your passwords securely saved in a system so that you are tracking your financials and you don't have to go to a bookkeeper or spend way too much money with an accountant at tax time to go through the mess that you've created. So that when you're a web developer or when you go and build the website that we're going to build together in flight school, you actually know where all of these things are and you can easily access them and it doesn't slow you down. In flight school, what this looks like is a checklist, but also a complete how-to and all the recommendations of all the providers that we have used over the years, and the best ones are the ones to watch out for. Now, step 5 is your photography and content bank. This is something people think, oh, I don't need to do photography or content until I'm doing my website or my social media, right? Wrong. It needs to happen first because it will slow down your website build and it will slow down your social media and your ads when you then go to launch. It is so vitally important that you have a photography and a content bank from the outset. And when my clients don't have this and I've just gone ahead and started the work, it is what has slowed me down. And it's what I've had to then go back to them and say, hey, I know it sounds like I'm making excuses right now and I hate having this conversation, but I really should have pushed for that photography and content bank at the outset because it is slowing down what I'm able to achieve. You can't launch a website with shitty photography. You can't launch ads if you don't have the right content that showcases and connects with your audiences. You can't create endless content without having some B-roll content sitting there for the days or the weeks that you just can't get face to camera. When you have that bank sitting there, that is how consistency plays out. You are giving yourself a head start. And so what we do, we help you work with AI if you choose to, in order to plan out the photography and the content that needs to be shot first. And this can be done in a 2-hour session. If you're in Mackay here, come into the studio and we'll shoot it for you. If you're not where we are, we can travel to you if you want to spend that money, or we help you figure out how to find a good content creator or videographer or photographer. But I'm gonna slow you down right there and say, with the right camera, and I provide all of those recommendations, very budget friendly, with the right camera and the right tools, you can actually shoot all of this stuff yourself. You don't need to outsource. By the end of this, you will have a shot list template, you will have a content template, and you have the ability to create 3 months of banked up photography and video content in just a couple of hours. Okay, then step 6 is your social media and your personal brand. And we make a very clear distinction here what a personal brand actually is as it relates to a founder, because it's not crying on camera unless that is really part of the strategy. It's not sharing your kids all over the internet unless that is part of your strategy and something that you actively choose to do. It is very much at this stage figuring out what you post about, what you don't post about, how you do it, how you sound, how you look, where you do it, how frequently you do it, what platforms you're actually using. And we give you, obviously, that's where the tactics come in terms of this is best practice for Instagram right now, this is best practice for TikTok, this is what you should be using this placement for, stories get to be used here, this is how you do stories, this is how you use TikTok to filter people into your Instagram, into your email list, into your ManyChat flow. Very tactical based here. And the biggest delivery, I would say, after this step is that there is no doubt in your mind what you talk about when you're on your socials, to the point where you can just grab a few photos from your content bank, write some text over the top while you're sitting at swimming lessons, make a little carousel, post it out, and you can make $10,000 worth of sales off that. that has happened to me so many times. An afterthought of a carousel has led to some of my biggest sales weeks. And it's because we've done all the steps in order. Now, finally in the build phase is your website. I was very stubborn in this, and I had a previous staff member that always said to me, don't encourage people to build their own websites, right? I think we are past that now, guys. AI does an incredible job in helping us fill in the gaps of any skills. And what we actually do, we have templates, and I'm still finalizing this, but what my goal is to have a one-click action that you basically upload your website copy, which we've gotten AI to help you write, but in your voice, because we've got all the previous no stages there. One click, you load up your photography and boom, you've got yourself a live website. This is going to be the same high-performing website frameworks that we have used for all of our clients over the last 11 years. It has strong SEO, search engine optimization, so you get found on Google. Strong conversion rate optimization, so when people land on your website, they know exactly what steps they need to take and it speaks to their souls. And of course, it is authentically yours. Okay, we have now done the build phase. It is up to launch phase. Now, the first step in launch phase is actually your analytics. Numbers are not my forte. However, you can't make decisions if you don't understand what is happening and what your audiences are doing. So we take you through how to correctly set up analytics so that you can go in and after you've launched your first ads or launched your social media, you can really say, okay, what are people doing next? Where is this breaking down in my sales funnel? Of course, we need to understand what your sales funnel actually is. That is very simple. We map out what your lead magnet needs to be, so how to get people into your funnel in the first place, in your email list, in your ManyChat flows. We help you launch ManyChat flows. We have all of our templates there as well. And the focus really is on getting your first sales through this sales funnel. If you're already an established business and you're making sales, that's fine. I'm not talking about your first sales ever. I'm talking about first scalable sale. So that means creating your social media content, knowing which ads to run through Meta in the right setup, which is actually simplified so much to the point I had to unlearn so much of my previous Meta ads knowledge to get this to work now. Knowing exactly how to nurture people through your sales funnel, knowing how to not waste money when it comes to your Meta ads. So what I want you to check is, do you have any gaps here? Number one, do you have Google Analytics, or do you understand your Shopify metrics, or know how to read your Meta ads analytics, or know how to read your social media analytics to understand what is actually happening so you can make better decisions based on that? If you don't know that, that's an analytics problem. Next, do you know how to get people's attention? Do you know how to build trust with them? And do you know how to convert them into sales? This is essential. And as much as I'd love to start the whole framework with this funnel, if you don't have the steps before it, it's just going to be generic as fuck. And that's what we really don't want. So by this stage, we are so clear on who you are, who your audience is, who your brand is. We have all of the tech set up and connected. You're not blocking yourself in terms of, I don't have any content, or I don't know where my domain name. That is all sorted. We now get to focus simply on how do we actually get these audiences through our funnels and how do we make the sales? Because then my next question is, if I told you right now you had to quadruple your sales in the next 30 days, could you do that? I could do it for my clients. A lot of my students could. Could you do that? If not, then you don't have a sales funnel. You don't have a system that allows you to fly and to scale. And so that's what this point is all about. Okay, so if you've listened this far, you now should have a very good understanding of what the 9 steps are, what the framework looks like that we are using for Flight School, that we have had so much success with, that we've been building over the last 11 years, what is working for brands right now. If you are feeling like, wow, I do have a lot of gaps, I would really benefit from going back and doing this step by step, then Flight School is a 12-week program where we take you through each of these within our portal, really quite basic questions that you need to answer and some work that needs to then be done. I would say allow 4 hours a week for doing the program and executing on the marketing, which may sound like a lot, but trust me, it is really, really not that much. It is half a day in your week, and you will actually love doing it because there's a very clear distinction. This is what I want you to focus on. This is what you can not focus on. Don't worry about that right now. Worry about this thing right now in front of you. You have an actionable to-do list. When you submit your answers, they come through to us. They come through to myself, to Sloan, to Amelia. We are the ones that will be reviewing your work, giving you feedback. And if you're completely off track, we're going to call you and go, hey, I think we need to chat. Now, on that note, you do have 2 one-on-one coaching calls included over the 12-week program. We recommend doing this after the know phase and then after the build phase. By the end of flight school, you don't just have marketing, you have a solid business that takes away your mental load, that improves the quality of your life because you're building it to what you want it to be, not what someone else's version of success looks like. And you have a business you can scale. And if you want to continue working with us, we have advisory, or you might upgrade into the Built by Birdcage packages. A lot of our full library students graduate into becoming agency clients, but you don't even have to, because my goal is to give you all the knowledge that you need in order to just keep scaling to the level that you want to keep scaling at. Right now, Flight School has a launch special happening. So depending when you listen to this episode, it may still be available for you to claim this offer. But we have intentionally made Flight School less than what the full library used to be. And yet I feel like you are getting even more because you are getting that feedback every single week from us. You are getting the free coaching calls included in that. There is so much more value delivered in a very structured way that keeps you accountable, keeps you going through this. And it's almost to the point where if this doesn't work for you, then I need to talk to you, because there's no way that you can't achieve your goals if you follow these 9 steps and if you do this properly. Whether you decide to join us in Flight School, you want to work with us one-on-one, or you just want to take away the learnings that you have from this episode, I just want you to promise me one thing. Focus on the foundations first. Stop skipping ahead to your ads, to your lead magnets, to your social media when you don't have a website that converts, when you don't have a photography and content bank, when you don't even know what your personal values are or the goals that you're working to. When I say it in that way, it's kind of obvious that most of us have been skipping ahead in business for so long. Maybe because we're entrepreneurs and we love to work quickly, but also maybe because no one's ever told us that we need to do it in this specific way, which is my purpose on this earth. It's to make things simple for you, make things work for you, and help you build a life and a business that works for you, for your audiences, for your family, and for your goals. Now, if you loved this episode, make sure you leave a lovely review because it helps us grow. If you want to DM me, make sure you do. We always love to hear feedback from our episodes. If you have questions about Flight School or any other ways that we can possibly support you, I am always here and available to help you. But my final parting words of wisdom: if you don't like where you're at right now, it is your responsibility to change it. And you can change it. So fucking do it.